Since you hit play on Wife Teacher Mommy, the podcast today, I want to make sure that you know that our free self-love challenge is happening in February 2024 right here on the podcast. The goal of this challenge is to make creating an intentional practice of self-love even easier than ever simply by plugging in your earbuds and listening for about 10 minutes per day. But for the full experience, you're going to want to get the scorecard so you can enter the giveaways, get the daily journal prompts sent to your inbox, and join us for the live wrap-up podcast recording. Yes, you get to join me in the studio and record the podcast together live. It is all free. Go to wifeteachermommy.com/self-love challenge to sign up. Again, it is completely free. You'll get a daily reminder with the free 10-minute coaching each day and your journal prompt, and you will see a transformation over these 14 days. It is not only going to impact your relationship with yourself, but as I'll teach during the challenge, it is going to impact every single other relationship you have in your life, your relationship with other people, your relationship with teaching. That energy is going to impact every single other aspect of your life. So sign up at wifeteachermommy.com/self-love challenge. It's free. Now let's get to the episode. You are listening to episode number 45 of Wife Teacher Mommy, the podcast, how to do a Secret Santa in the classroom or homeschool. Today, I will be sharing a way you can build writing, classroom community, and holiday cheer all in one, and it's way easier than you think. So keep listening. Glad you're here listening to Wife Teacher Mommy, the podcast today. I'm your host, Kelsey Sorensen, a former elementary teacher turned homeschool mom. Whether you are a teacher or a homeschool parent, my goal at Wife Teacher Mommy is to provide you with both teaching ideas and mindset tools to help you live your absolute best teacher life. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss an episode. Now let's go. I'm so excited, again, to be recording some holiday episodes for you. The holiday season is one of my favorites. It's just, there's so much cheer, and I love the decorations. I love the music. I love so much about the holiday season. And another thing I love is the traditions that we all have. I think a lot of us, whether we celebrate Christmas or other things, we all have traditions this time of year. And they're so fun. Like, for example, one of my family is every Christmas we do evil skeevers for breakfast. And that's how we pronounce it. I don't know if it's actually pronounced that way, but they're basically these like spherical like pancakes. Like imagine like a pancake that is a sphere, like, like a globe or whatever. So you do it in these pans and you like flip them and stuff. And then sometimes they're still a little gooey on the inside. They're super good. I've had these every breakfast on Christmas since I was a little girl. We now get together usually at my dad's house. It's my dad's side of the family tradition. Just been a fun tradition that we've kept up over the years. And now our children are having it and maybe they'll continue it. Just super fun. And one other Christmas tradition that many of us have different variations of are doing a Secret Santa. A lot of us will do these with family or with colleagues. We did one with Team Wife Teacher Mommy last year when we did a team Christmas party, which was a lot of fun. But one day, way back in 2014, I thought, how fun would it be to do a Secret Santa with a classroom? That was just an idea that popped in my head. And I had just started my Teachers Pay Teachers store. I was home and subbing because I had my 6 or 7 month old son, my first child at home. And when I had what I thought was that brilliant idea, I naturally wanted to create a resource to help teachers be able to do what I wish I would have done when I was in the classroom with students. I I was like, oh man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have had this idea then, but just so many ideas were coming to me. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to do the next best thing, I'm going to create a resource that teachers can use. But my thought process was like, we couldn't do a traditional Secret Santa where kids have to buy or bring a gift because, all our kids are at different income levels and also just different support at home. So we can't expect that their parents are going to help them purchase a gift to give to another student. I just didn't feel like that would be fair. I felt like we would run into issues with that. And I also wanted it to be educational. So what I came up with is a secret student writing project. So today I want to share tips with you so you can walk away from this podcast being able to completely do it yourself. I'm giving you basically everything that I did when I put together our unit, or you can always grab our Secret Santa to save a little bit of time and have it nearly ready to go. But I'm going over everything today. So a Secret Santa isn't only a fun way to integrate writing into the curriculum during Christmas time, but it's also a great way to build classroom community and bring in Christmas cheer. So it's kind of like all in one. Students are assigned their own person to be a Secret Santa to, and then they will write letters to them with fun writing prompts throughout the unit. So it's helping them practice their writing without even realizing it. They are building classroom community, being nice to each other. They're watching for each other doing things. That's another thing we'll talk about later in this episode. And the other thing that I love about this activity is that it can be done at a variety of levels. It is naturally differentiated because they'll just write at their own level. So students who are able to write more, they'll be able to write a longer letter with larger vocabulary. Other students, they can write just like a sentence and draw a picture. It really is just naturally differentiated, and the students will all be doing the same thing. So that's one thing I love about this activity. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that I love differentiation and making sure that we meet children where they are and adapt and accommodate kids. So we talk about that a lot on the podcast. And I love that this activity specifically makes that really easy. There's not much that you have to do. And now I also want to note that for the homeschool mamas or dads listening, you know that I love you as a homeschool mom now myself. You could also totally use this activity as a family if you homeschool. It might be a little bit harder as the kids will recognize each other's handwriting, but it could also be great for a homeschool co-op or a charter. Now, my children, they go to this amazing charter group each week. I'm sad to admit we haven't yet done this with that group. I would really love to introduce it to them and see if they would be willing to implement it. But as you listen, you'll see that this is completely adaptable to those situations as well. So keep listening. Wanted to mention that because I have not forgotten all of you. I know sometimes our episodes go a little bit more on the teacher side, but we're here to support all educators. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about, so first I created this activity. And then I wanted to test it out and make sure that it worked well. So I tested it out in one of my dear friends' classrooms who let me come in and volunteer, my friend Caitlin. And fun fact, I student taught with her. I was her go-to sub for a while. And eventually she started helping us make resources at Wife Teacher Mommy. In fact, right now she's making some awesome monthly writing prompts that our members have been loving so far. But back in 2014, when we did this, I was so happy to volunteer in her classroom and do this activity. And I remember that day quite well, but luckily I actually also wrote a blog post of it literally that day. So I had started the Wife Teacher Mommy blog too. So I will link to that in the show notes and you'll see some real pictures of when I implemented that activity that day and some of the actual letters that kids wrote on day one. You'll also see my journey in photography skills and design skills because that was the earliest version of the unit. It now, in my opinion, looks a lot better and our pictures look a lot better, but we've left that version up because it's when I actually went in and did that very first time. But if you compare it to the actual unit, you will see the improvement over the years as well. So fun times. So anyways, I had that blog post to help me outline this episode, but now I can also share tips in hindsight as we've updated and improved it even more with feedback. We've had over 1,000 teachers use the unit and some other teachers who have done this and what they've said about using it in their own classroom. So I'm going to share some of that as well. Now, with the unit, we start with a story. I love using stories to introduce units. And honestly, really anything, you'll notice that even on this podcast, sometimes I'll share a story. Like right now, I'm sharing the story of when I created this unit. So we started this unit with an original story. I wasn't able to find a book that was like about doing a unit like this, so I wrote my own. So it's a fictional story. It's about a child named Andy who was not being very kind to his classmate Carl. Santa had written him a letter telling him that Santa couldn't be there himself, and he needed Andy to be his secret Santa and look after him. And sure enough, Carl and Andy became best buddies and find out that even um, and they find out that they even have some things in common. So after reading this story, we had a classroom discussion about the things that Andy did to be nice. We discussed how he could apply this story in their own classroom, which led into the Secret Santa unit. So it was a fun little story to introduce the unit. And then I explained to students that we were going to be doing this ourselves. They were each going to get to be a secret Santa to another student in the class. And they were all very excited about this. I explained that each student would draw the name of a classmate and they would be writing letters and doing kind things for this person. And they would need to make sure that they are doing lots of kind things because they will be reporting what they are doing back to their teacher. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. I also made the point very clear that students were not to tell anyone who their secret Santa is, not even their best friend, because that ruins the surprise. The word will spread. You want to keep it a secret. That's really the part of the fun of a secret Santa. So I prepared the names ahead of time by going into the classroom, and the name tags that come with the unit actually have editable text boxes for you to fill in your own student names. And actually, you can just fill in the student names one time and it'll auto populate throughout the document wherever it's needed. So on the drawing cards, on the cards where you're keeping track, or the page where you're keeping track of who has who, and on the reveal cards. I'll talk more about that in the episode as well. But a fun idea. So I had students draw the names out of a Santa hat just to be extra festive. I thought that was just a special touch, and the kids, they seem to think that was really fun too. So you'll have the students draw names, but my recommendation wouldn't be to do it when they're at their desk, like right by all the other students. So what I did is I had the students come up to me one at a time and draw the names so the kids around them couldn't see. And then you can keep record right then and there of who has who, because as we know, some kids, they will just lose their paper and forget. And then you have that record, and it also keeps kids from peeking at each other, like I mentioned. So once all the students were assigned, I gave them their first writing prompt, and the first one was for students to write a compliment to the student that they have. And I made sure to tell the students not to include their own name in the letter, but they could sign it as their secret Santa. Now, they must put the name of who it is to, though, so it can be delivered by their teacher. So they'll write like to Mateo or whatever, and then they'll write the letter and they'll put from your secret Santa. Now, it was so much fun to be able to look at them before they were delivered and read some of their clever responses. Here are some of the letters that were from that day that I went into the classroom. Dear Buzzy, you are a very nice friend. You always brighten my day. Hopefully, you don't figure out who I am. From Secret Santa. Another one was, Dear Chase, this is your Secret Santa. And they just put a little blank line, period. I like that you are nice, tidy, and clean. You are friendly and kind to others. Another one said, Hi, Ty. I am your secret Santa, and I am going to compliment you today. So, what I like about you is you are so funny and cool. So, I will talk to you later. Bye. Your secret Santa. Aren't these adorable? I love these letters and what they bring out in the students. They're so cute, right? This was such a fun day introducing that lesson. And it was years ago, but I'm pretty sure I went back at least one time during the unit. But the kids had a great time finishing it up without me, and I was glad to hear of their success. So once you start the unit, you'll continue with a writing prompt each day. Now, in the unit, the way I designed it specifically, we had two different types of writing prompts. One was your Secret Santa writing prompts. And this is what you would imagine. They are the letters that students would be writing to their classmate. And to last through the unit, I did 10 writing prompts for students to write a letter for their assigned classmate as their Secret Santa. And you can display it on the board with a projector or smartboard, etc. We also have small versions of it that you can print out for the students if you want them to have like printouts, like in their journal of the prompts or anything. And then you can have students fill out the writing prompt page where they can then have an adorable design letter for their classmate. Now, remind them to sign each letter as your Secret Santa and write the date in the top right corner of each letter. Then students will turn these into you, and then you will deliver them to the correct person. At least that's what I had in my unit. I did have some teachers say that they had them, like, if they have like mailboxes for each student, they could like secretly put them in there or somehow secretly deliver them themselves. You can decide how you want that to happen. Now, the second type of writing prompt is the report to teacher writing prompt. Now, these are where the students will write to you, and this will keep them accountable to ensure they are fully participating in the activity, which is not only writing to their person they're assigned to as a Secret Santa, but also doing kind things for them. So each week, they will need to report to you about something they've done for them. It can be like as simple as they helped them pick up a pencil they dropped off the floor, or they said something nice to them. But we want to make sure that they're doing at least something each week. So there are 4 report to me prompts included in the unit, as well as corresponding writing pages for the students. But obviously, you can clearly do this yourself, just knowing how to do it as well. And these will be in addition to the regular prompts or instead of. So you can either have them do just that one day each week, or you can have them do both that and writing to them. It depends on how much time you have. It depends on how long you want the unit to go and just how you want to do it. So you can definitely do it your own way. Here are a few examples of prompts you could have. So for a Secret Santa one we have is tell your classmate one thing you like about them. It can be a personality trait, a talent, or any sort of compliment. Use descriptive words. So that is the prompt that was for the letters that I just read off a little bit ago. Another example is write a letter to your classmate giving only one clue to who you are. It could be something a little bit tricky that they may not know about you, so they won't know right away. And the kids love these ones because they get to be like, ooh, here's a little clue. Super fun. It kind of brings in that mystery of the Secret Santa. Now, for the report to teacher, now these were pretty self-explanatory. So for the first one, it was what was one kind thing that you have done for your classmate this week as their Secret Santa? And then another following week, you could be like, what is another kind thing you did this week? Make sure it's different from the previous week. And then at the end, you could have something like, what did you learn from the Secret Santa activity? Write as much as you can. So those are just some examples of the types of prompts. If you get our unit, you'll have all of those ready to go, plus editable ones if you want to add your own. But you could certainly just create your own really quick and write them on the board or do whatever you would like with that. And then at the end of the unit, once they've written all their letters and you're getting close to the holiday break, you end the unit with a big reveal activity. And this is one of the favorite parts of the unit. So what we do is we give each student a reveal card that says your Secret Santa is name. So you have that already prepared. You give it to each one. You put it like face down, or you can like tape it to their back or whatever. You'll want to prep these ahead of time. If you have our unit, the names will already be typed out because you'll have typed them in the master section and it would have auto-populated throughout the document wherever the names are needed. So you'll print them out, hand them out, and have the students cover their eyes, tell them not to peek through the paper. They can't look at it until it's time. Now give each student a piece of tape and their neighbor will tape it onto their back, again, without peeking. And then you'll explain the rules of the reveal game. So students will go around the room asking other students questions about their Secret Santa. So they'll walk around the room and they'll be like, hey, is my Secret Santa wearing a red shirt or whatever? And they'll get yes or no questions until they can figure it out. And only one question per student. And remind the students that they must be kind with these questions. They don't want to say anything mean. These are just really nice yes or no questions. Then once the student has guessed their Secret Santa, they may go sit down. And alternatively, so that's one idea. Alternatively, you can have your students write a letter revealing who they are. Another idea is to have students sit in a circle and go around the room guessing and or revealing who they were a Secret Santa for. So you have a few ideas there. And then at the very end, you'll want to assign one last letter, which is a thank you letter. Their Secret Santa has been writing to them and doing kind things for them all month long. And we want to make sure that we're teaching our students gratitude. So you'll have them write a thank you letter. And make it thoughtful. So you can have a prompt like, hey, what is something specific that you appreciated? Tell them thank you. And then they can deliver these directly because they know now who it is going to. So, with this info from the podcast, I hope you have all the information that you need to start a Secret Santa in your own classroom or homeschool. And if you do, I would love to hear about it. So, please DM me and my team on Instagram at Wife Teacher Mommy. We would love to hear all about it. Now, if you want some help doing this, if you're like, oh my goodness, I love this idea, but I really just want it ready to go, or that auto-populating you've been talking about, I need that. That is why I created that secret student writing unit. And if you grab that, you will get lesson plans and prep work all done for you. So how to set it up, the reveal activity, more information about everything I explained in the podcast, basically all in written out lesson plan format. You'll get the original story I wrote. So you'll be able to either print it out and hand it out to your students or read it out loud to them, depending on the level of your students, obviously. You'll get that super cool autofilling feature. So you'll fill in the students' names one time, and then they'll be on the drawing cards, they'll be on the recording sheet and the reveal activity. You'll get the writing prompts, both the regular Secret Santa one and Report to Me one, so you don't have to think of a bunch of them. There's printable versions to hand out, and then there's editable versions if you have additional ideas you want to add as well. You'll get differentiated writing pages, so they're that the students can write their letters on. Like there's one that has like a box for a picture and some lines. And then there's 2 different line versions with different line spacing, so you can easily differentiate or pick the right one for your class. There is a thank you letter template to make sure that doesn't get lost among everything with going on holiday break. That could be an easy thing to forget at the end, but I really do feel like it's so important, and then it's done and ready for you. And then there are color and black and white versions of everything. So you can decide if you want the fun, festive colors or if you want to save some ink and do the black and white. Now, there's no digital version of this unit at this time. We haven't quite mastered how the sending of those digitally would work. And also, honestly, this is a great practice for students to be actually writing. So right now, it's just a printable product. Now, here are what some users of the resource have said. So Stephanie F. said, my students loved this resource. It helped them with their writing skills as well as spreading kindness to each other. I look forward to using this every year. Rebecca M. said, this was an easy, quick way for my students to write a little bit more and think outside the box. My students loved doing this, but they especially loved the reveal. Thanks. And then an anonymous, unnamed 6th grade teacher, thank you so much for such a great resource to use right before the break. They had a blast using this, and I won by getting them to write. And then Carol W. says, my class is in desperate need of some positive classroom community building. I've been wanting to do a Secret Santa type activity, but because of the socioeconomic status at my school, I didn't think it was possible. This is such a great idea, and I'm excited to introduce it and see how it comes together in the coming weeks. And I just love hearing from the teachers using this unit. I feel like it can make such a great difference during this crazy busy season to bring in some cheer and just love for each other in the classroom. So over 1,000 teachers have purchased this unit, and we've had a lot of success with it. And if you are a Wife Teacher Mommy Club member, be sure to grab this, download it, utilize it. We want to make sure that you are getting the most out of your club experience and all those downloads that you have access to. I will also link to this resource in the show notes. You can buy it on our website or on Teachers Pay Teachers too. We also have a full year bundle and versions for all year long. So, and for example, if you're like, I can't do a Secret Santa, we're not allowed to do the holidays. We have a friendly snowman version for January. It's a great alternate if you can't use Santa. We have thankful turkeys for Thanksgiving. We have a Halloween boo. Secret Valentine, Sneaky Leprechaun, Some Bunny is looking out for you. We have end of year awards where the students write to each other. And then we have a back to school one, which helps the kids get to know each other at the beginning of the school year. So we have a full bundle you can grab. I'll link to that in the show notes. And also Wife Teacher Mommy Club members, remember you have access to download any of those as well. Now, really quick, end of episode reminder. Last week, I announced that I would also love to share your tips on the podcast in upcoming episodes. So I'm planning for the next few months, and some really popular topics that were voted on in our Facebook group were true self-care and how to survive the week before break. So I would love to hear from you. These episodes will be similar to our 2 episodes segment back in August, where I shared a few of my own tips, but then I shared as many tips as I could from teachers. Many of them were recordings in their own voices. So I would love to get those from you. It's so much fun to feature you. So if you're listening to this in November 2022, there's still time to answer questions for those specific episodes about what you do for true self-care and how to survive the week before break. So go to WTMpodcastinbox.com to answer them. Now, if you'd rather not record your voice, you can send us a message on Instagram at WifeTeacherMommy or email us. And the link, if you're listening to this later than November 2022, you should be able to still go to WTMpodcastinbox.com. It will link to wherever we're currently accepting recordings, and you can find out more information there. And also, if you missed it, last week I recorded an episode about teaching holidays around the world. And that was the top voted holiday episode. In fact, it was actually the top voted episode in all of the ideas I put in a poll in our Facebook group. So be sure to give that one a listen as well. And stay tuned for next week's episode. Trust me, you do not want to miss it. Until then, have an awesome day. If you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you're ready to take the next step with me, then you are going to love Wife Teacher Mommy Club. Our top-selling resources for pre-K through 6th grades have been used and loved by tens of thousands of teachers. And the club gives you one-click access to all of them to meet the needs of every child you teach while saving tons of time. Plus, you'll have our certified life coach in your back pocket with several monthly workshops and an Ask a Coach portal you can use 24/7. The combo of resources and coaching is our secret sauce to your best teacher life. Think of my team and I as your personal team, doing the lesson planning for you and on the sidelines coaching you and cheering you on as you focus on what you do best, impacting the children you teach. Plus, if you're loving this podcast, you'll also have access to our private podcast just for members, where I continue the conversation with all of our guests with members-only bonus episodes. And don't forget the club with VIP access to Educate and Rejuvenate, our summer conference, and our private Facebook community full of like-minded educators supporting each other. You do so much for everyone else, so it's time to invest in yourself. Your teacher friends' jaws will drop when they see just how quickly you finish your planning. Not to mention the glow of the happier, more fulfilled you. Head on over to WifeTeacherMommyClub.com to learn more.